program, then take some responsibility. If the least you can do is teach your kids at home the truth that they're not getting.
It's easy.
Well, there's more. There's also another aspect to this. One of the things I mentioned was getting together as a group. Now, I'm going to give you an example of one thing I know of that's going on in several places, and that's called an educational cooperative. This is homeschooling when 2 or 3 moms get together so that they can, say, if they got real little ones, they can tend to the little ones. At the same time, they can monitor what's going on in terms of the other older kids who do need the education. If one mom gets real busy, the other one can jump right in there, no problem. And this is becoming more and more commonplace.
Homeschooling by co-op.
Make difference.
For Drake, in my case, I physically have difficulties working in my garden, but in exchange for work in my garden, I'm teaching other children, and the parents of those other children will do the weeding and whatever needs to be done in the garden.
Exactly.
So it's just kind of a trade.
Yeah, and that's all it is.
And
when you have one thing of value, bid for another. You don't have to have money. Just that simple.
Exactly, and it's not illegal to trade, and it's not illegal to give a gift.
We all have skills and abilities which are valuable to others as well as ourselves, and the same is true of them. I mean, I can design and sew anything, but maybe the guy across the street could fix my air conditioning, and he needs a whole lot of sewing, and I need an air conditioning fixed, that sort of thing.
Survival without the Federal Reserve note.
Yeah, what is money? We've all become dependent on this silly, stupid concept of, well, if you don't have money, you can't accomplish anything. You can't do anything. You can't get anything. That is ridiculous. Long, long before man came up with the concept of money, people still did for each other. There were still goods and services to be had, and a constant flow of them, back and forth, across the continents, across countries, and between civilizations and communities, long before there was anything in the concept of what we perceive to be the modern concept of money. It is not necessary to survival.
Can I kick something in here real quick? Okay, yeah. Money is a means of storing and exchanging real wealth. Real wealth is what grows out of the ground, what you dig out of the ground, what you make with your own hands. We need to concentrate again in this country of producing real wealth.
Right. We have sat on our butts and not said a word while an out-of-control, totally corrupt corporation posing as a government has turned us into a nation of consumers. And lo and behold, there's no jobs. Why? Because nobody wants to pay you to consume. We don't produce anything.
Exactly.
So there's a lot that's done, a lot of real basic things. As these small groups, as these small groups come together, it might be just 2 or 3 out of a neighborhood, but when 2 or 3 people get together and they start accomplishing things, other people are going to be watching going, oh, that's not a bad deal. And then one time you'll be walking by that person and they'll say, can I ask you something? And he says, sure, what's up? And they'll ask you about what you were doing. Oh, well, he needed to get this done, and he's not in real good shape, so 3 or 4 of us who are decided to go over and kind of help him out. Took us a couple hours, and he bought the beer.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember, it wasn't that long ago, because I remember my grandmother telling me about good old-fashioned barn raisins. Somebody's barn had burned down, and they'd all get together and go raise up a new barn. Or somebody's house needed painting, and they'd all get together and make a picnic out of it and go paint that house and then have a barbecue with the neighborhood.
It was fun.
It is fun.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Matter of fact, that's something that we used to always do every time we moved into a neighborhood. And it would get to the point that, just for instance, I could leave for church Sunday morning. I could start the coals on the smoker and throw a slab of meat on, and by the time I'd get home, there was already a neighbor there tending to the grill, and other neighbors lining up tables with food from other neighbors. And, I mean, we did this at least once a month. There were times we would do an entire weekend where that grill never got a rest, because somebody was always tending to something. But we were always together, socializing, finding out, educating each other about what was going on in our communities. I mean, it was great. It was great. I mean, I miss being able to do that over the past 2 years. But, I mean, it's like, you know, everybody knows I've got a son that's active duty military, and he's going to be getting out here real soon. And that's the first thing he said is, Mama, within a week of me getting out, we've got to put together a community barbecue get-together.
For those,
that's what we do. That's what we do.
For those who lived through the Depression, including my parents, who were born in 1912, and my grandparents, they said of this, it was the worst of times, it was the best of times. People back then used to visit each other. Families had to move in with each other because they lost their farms or their houses. People learned to get along with each other. People learned how to talk with each other. They learned how to get along with each other. And as my grandmother used to say, well, between television and air conditioning, people have lost the fine art of sitting on the front porch and chatting at night.
The fine art of conversation.
Mhm.
That's what the kitchen table's for.
Yeah.
That too. Mm-hmm.
And I can remember as a child, we used to get together with family whenever we could, and we'd either be outside having, like you're saying, a dinner on lawn chairs, or if it was nasty out, you'd be sitting around the kitchen table, and of course the kids were always, you know, right there where you could see what they were doing, or if you didn't hear no noise, you knew to go look for them, see what they were up to. But the ideology has changed. The divorcement between people is purposely done. One of the things is electronics. That can be a cell phone. That can be computer. That can be computer games. That can be texting. What it does is it takes the factor of humanity out of a relationship. And that part of it needs to be changed. I don't say turn the internet off. I'm not saying do without cell phones and all that, but the two can go together and fit very nicely. And the advantages that go along with it. What has your cell phone done for you lately, other than maybe get you in trouble when you was talking on it when you was driving and some cop decided that wasn't a good idea? What does it do to dishes? Have you had a friend over and sat on the porch and had a couple beers and had the guy actually relax after a hard day's work, or the lady that had been chasing her kids, she finally got rid of them for a few hours and she wanted to get out of the house, but she couldn't go very far, but your porch is over and that chair is waiting, and, you know, she can sit down and you all can cackle like hens for as long as you feel like it, and you get to know each other. You get to know how that person feels about things. Most people are basically the same. They want a simple, safe, decent life, and they don't need a whole lot of extras necessarily, but the simplicity or the simple idea of people being in touch with people. The factor of touch. I have touched people that are relatives just on the shoulder, and they jump. They're not used to the idea of somebody touching them.
Yep.
We need to get back to where hugs are common. A kiss on the cheek don't hurt nothing.
That's one advantage to living in the South.
Well,
everybody'd hug you down here, and I love it.
Yeah. Well, I'm living in the woods on account of it. These people all around here all say hey and wave. That's just the way life is up here. And some of them who don't talk to anybody are beginning to know me when they see me. They know my wife and I, and they're beginning to wave. So we're beginning to be accepted into a very special community, because these people up here are all independents. They have their own gardens. They go hunting for meat sometimes. Sometimes they don't work real steady necessarily, and they don't have a choice. But they take care of business, and they take care of each other. And that's, this is the lifestyle that we need to reinitiate to start with again. And the reason for that is that this year we are going to experience a combination of things that can't happen in the United States. Just simply cannot happen. There ain't no way. And I don't want to hear somebody tell me that there is and it's going to be, when I know perfectly well it don't matter to me, because it ain't bothering me. Why should I worry about it?
Right.
And off and down the Gaga road this poor uneducated person goes. Now, when it gets down to the fun and games, and they all of a sudden need some food, and maybe they should have talked to somebody, and maybe they should have bought that extra can of whatever, then they'll realize you're talking somewhere between 40 and 70% of the population right now. Hopefully we'll get more woke up than that by doing shows like this, but anybody out there who thinks this is a big crock needs to listen up. This is not something that is coming just from this show and a bunch of people sitting around talking about stuff. This information that I get comes from some of the finest financial experts, and I mean the people that really know what's going on. They talked about the housing crisis long before it ever happened, and I mean years before. They said there's going to be a problem here because of the way you're doing stuff.
Right.
And, this is what we're expressing now, that it's coming quicker than you think. It's going to be deeper than you think. And I'm telling you, I've been through hurricanes in Florida. It took, and I watched it because I heard the hurricane was coming, and I heard the probability from a certain couple of people I trust as to where it was going to go. This thing went through the Straits of Florida between Cuba and the southern tip of Florida. It missed the Keys. It went between a couple of them. There's a space down there. And pulled the left hook and come right at us. I had already heard that the thing was coming. I watched. When it got down around the bottom of Florida, I went to the store. I'd saved up about a paycheck and a half. I spent almost every dime of it. Filled the truck up, had 20 gallons of fuel in 5-gallon cans sitting beside the house, and all the groceries that truck could hold just about. Took it home, put it all away. Come back, sit in the outer end, the outer edge of a Walmart. This was not a little bitty. It wasn't a super duper Walmart like the humongous ones they got now where you got to have a go-kart to get around, but it was one of the big ones. It's a super center, and I watched. It took exactly 2 hours, 45 minutes, and all of a sudden there wasn't very many cars in the parking lot. Okay. I go up, drove from the outer edge up to a little bit closer, went in and looked. There was nothing in that store that could be used either to keep the rain off or eat or drink. Nothing. Everything was gone. 2 hours and 45 minutes. That's something like 15 semi-tractor trailer loads. And people were coming up, driving by, looking at the parking lot, said, slow down and look, keep on going until they knew the store was empty.
Yep.
When they found one that had a lot of people in the parking lot, they pulled in and found some kind of way to park. Went in there and grabbed them some, whatever they could get.
Now,
5 minutes, average store lasts between 30 minutes and an hour and a half. So,
that's another concept that you touched on, Drake.
Yeah, but the thing is that when that is gone, it takes them 3 to 4 days to get it back.